Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're looking at vertex form. So vertex form looks like y equals a parentheses x minus h squared plus k. There's a little side note here. Note that there's a negative inside the parentheses. So our form is going to be, our vertex is going to be, actually if it's a negative then it's a positive, and if it's a positive then it's a negative. It's kind of weird that way. If you guys have worked with families of functions or transformations of graphs, then you kind of understand how that goes. Yeah, so let's just get started here and see what's up. So it's asking us to graph y equals 3 parentheses x plus 2 squared minus 6. All right, so the first thing we want to do is locate our vertex. So our vertex, let's go back here maybe, and let's take some notes here. So the vertex, because this is vertex form, we should be able to find the vertex pretty easily. So the vertex is going to be located at h comma k. Right, so for this one, if we're looking at the x minus h, again, because the sign is x minus h, then the h is positive. Let's look at what we got working over here. So the vertex is going to be at -2, -6. Now let's just talk about why the x is the -2 for h. So if we're looking at this in the proper form, x minus -2 is the same thing as x plus 2, right? So actually our x here is going to be negative from this parentheses. Now the other way to think about it is that it's just the opposite sign. So opposite sign for x. Right, so if it's a plus, then it's a negative. It's a minus, then it's a positive. So whichever way you guys want to think about it, but this is the more math based way to think about it, because the only way we get plus if we want it to be in the form of minus is to change it to minus negative, which is equivalent to the plus. Okay, our y is just going to be that constant added or subtracted to the outside. In this case, it's -6. That one, it's not opposite signs. For our y, it's just whatever we have over there. Okay, step 2. We're going to make a table. We're going to start this table at our vertex, because the good thing about knowing where our vertex is that if we find 2 numbers less than and 2 numbers greater than for our x, then we should be able to graph it pretty nicely. And because the graph of a parabola is symmetric, we'll find that if we find the same space from the vertex on the left and right, those numbers are going to come out the same, and we'll see that as we do it. So let's do 2 less and then 2 more. All right, so let's just plug in these values to our function. So if we do -3, we get 3 times -3 plus 2 squared minus 6. And then -3 plus 2 is -1 squared is 1. So 3 times 1 is 3. Minus 6 is -3. Let's do the same thing for -4. Okay, so we get -4 plus 2 is -2 squared, which is 4. 3 times 4 is 12. Minus 6 is 6. And then if we did it right, and if you're confident doing it right, you don't really have to do the rest of them, because these numbers are going to come out the same on the other side. But let's just check. So if I put a -1 in, 3 times -1 plus 2 squared minus 6. -1 plus 2 is 1. And then notice that these are the same, right? So 3 times 1 is 3. 3 minus 6 is -3. And then the last one, 3 times 0 plus 2 squared minus 6. 0 plus 2 is 2. 2 squared is 4. And again, we have the same thing going on here, so that should be +6. So all we're going to do is plot these points in Alex. -4, 6. -3, 3. -2, -6, -1, -3, 0, 6, and then hit that button that looks like that with the X's on it, and then it should graph. Okay. The next one is asking us to write it in vertex form. So this is going to be a little bit more complicated. We're going to have to do some completing the square here. It's going to get a little bit messy. The good thing about completing the square in vertex form is that they don't ask you to do it very often for whatever reason it is. So completing the square, while it's very useful in certain parts of math, it's rarely used, but it's something that's taught in case you do need to use it. So let's kind of go over the steps for this one. All right, so step 1, what we're going to do is we're going to move our 31. So we're going to move the C again, just kind of like we did before. So we're going to subtract 31. So we end up with 2x squared minus 16x equals -31. Oops. Okay, step 2. What we're going to do is we're going to factor out the C. We're going to factor out the A. So factor out the A. So in this case, our A is 2, right? So we're going to factor it out. So 2 parentheses. And I'm just pulling out the A, so I'm not pulling out the X. So we still have X squared here. And then remember when we factor out, we're dividing, right? So -16 divided by our 2 that we factored out is going to give us 8x. I'm going to leave a blank in there. Equals -31. Now, because we only factored the 2 out of the left side, we don't have to do it on the right side. So don't worry about it. Okay, now in step 3, we're going to go ahead and complete the square. So we're going to complete the square. Right, so we're going to do -b, we can just do +b, it doesn't matter, over 2a squared. So we're going to get -8 over 2 times, in this case, be careful, there's no a here, right? So it's just 1. This 2 outside is no longer the a, so we're going to just keep it as is. We're squaring it, so 8 over 2 is 4. Squared, which is 16. So we're going to add 16 here. Now be very careful here because this is an easy mistake to make and it's kind of like confusing a little bit maybe. But when we add 16, this is actually representing 16 times 2 because 2 is multiplying into the parentheses on the whole left side. Right? So when we add it to the right side, we also have to do 16 times 2. So it's going to be 16 times 2 is 32 on the right hand side. So be very careful here with the 16. So maybe let's make a note here. So when we substitute 16 in parentheses, right? We have to make sure that we multiply by the 2 in front. Then add that to the right. Okay, that's a place where it could be a huge mistake. So just remember, whatever you plug in here after you've completed the square in the parentheses, we multiply that with the number in front of the parentheses to get this number here, 32. Okay, once we've done that, then we can go ahead and start finishing this up. So then we have, we're going to factor, right, the inside. So we have 2 parentheses. Now, remember we said that if we're trying to factor it, we can do the whole factoring thing like we did earlier, or we can just take half of our b. So we're going to have x minus half of 8 is 4. You can write it again if you want to. Equals -31 plus 32 is 1. Now the easier way to do it is just to jump to this part because we know that we've got it correct, I hope. Right? I hope we done the math correctly up to that point so we don't have to worry about it. But x minus 4, whoops. But x minus 4 and x minus 4 times itself is just x minus 4 squared. Okay, so at this point it's in vertex form, right? We have our ax minus our h squared. Oh, sorry, it's not quite. We have to move that 1 over, so let's subtract the 1. So we have 2x minus 4 squared minus 1 equals 0. Now it's in vertex form. We have our a is 2, our h is 4, our k is negative 1, and it's all equal to 0. Okay, let's just do another one because I'm pretty sure that was complicated. It probably will benefit you to see one more time. So this time we're looking at 3x squared plus 30x plus 68 equals 0. What we're going to do first, right? First step, we're going to move our constant, our 68. So we get 3x squared plus 30x equals negative 68. Step 2, we're going to factor out the 3. So we're going to have 3 parentheses. The x squared is left. 30 divided by 3 is going to give us 10x equals negative 68. Nothing changed there. Okay, step 3, we're completing the square, right? So we have our 10 as our b, 1 as our a. So we have b over 2a squared. This is going to be 10 over 2 times 1 is 2. So 5 squared is 25. So I'm going to add 25 in the parentheses, but then remember again, we have to multiply by the number outside to figure out what's going to be on the right side. So 25 times 3 is 75. So again, 25 times the 3 in front. 25 times the 3 in front to get 75. Okay, at this point we're going to complete the square. So we have 3 parentheses. We can key on that now because we've already completed the square. So half of 10 is 5 squared equals negative 68. And then the last thing we want to do is move over the 68. So it's equal to 0. Oops, sorry, not 68. I'm messing this up. 68, negative 68 plus 75 is going to be positive 7. So then all we have to do is move the 7 to make it equal to 0. So we have 3x plus 5 squared minus 7 equals 0. Right, and in this form we know where the vertex is. It's going to be at negative 5, positive 7, right? Because the inside the parentheses is weird. It's x minus h, so we have the flip-flop on the signs. Not that it's asking us to find the vertex, but the whole reason we put something in vertex form is so that we can locate the vertex pretty easily. Okay, that is it for today. Please make sure you have your notes taken, and if you have any questions, make sure you come into class and ask them. There's people who are slacking on their work. There's people who are falling behind, which is fine. It's just that it's becoming a problem that people are trying to turn things in late or at the very deadline, and some people are missing out on it. They have a lot of work to do at the very end, and there's not enough time to finish it or enough time to ask questions in class. So please, as much as you can, try to stay on top of it. I'm sure it'll be of your benefit to do the lessons daily and try to turn them in on the due date in Google Classroom. The Alex stuff, the due date is the end of the quarter, but I don't want you to wait till then if at all possible, because really I'm expecting you guys to do a lesson a day. And if you can stay ahead of that, awesome. If you have to fall behind a little bit, okay, but don't fall all the way behind and then try to do all your work at the very end.